All right. Well, so welcome to the Rat's Nest is what we're calling this. So right now, seems like a good name for what we do. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Sean.
Yeah, we are the two people amongst many other people that are behind Nerd Rat Media. Sean and I are usually the cats that are doing a lot of the getting things together and finalizing things, but video and film takes more than two guys to do this stuff. We just happen to be steering the ship a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And we'll have a lot of those people on this podcast as we figure out kind of what we're doing with it. Yes, because this is the first episode. So this one is kind of going to be about us and how we've gotten started in the business. And then from there, it'll go into all sorts of topics.
Yeah. And, and other things we'll talk about on the cast, and obviously we'll take suggestions, is we're going to be talking about what we're excited about, what the future holds for the scene locally on a national level. Heck, we're in Colorado, so there's a lot of wild stuff happening for that. And we're going to save that for another cast because I could talk your ear off about all kinds of stuff. And we'll be bringing on people that I know that have a lot of knowledge on these things. We're just trying to be more informative and be a step closer to being a kind of a little bit of a beacon for what's happening here for people creatively. And having a way for them to kind of talk about stuff. And I mean, this is our first one.
Yeah.
So we're not going to necessarily have like a bunch of footage on camera, but that's the goal.
Yeah. And like what we mean by here in general is like the Colorado scene, because that's what we're most familiar with. But as like we grow and stuff, hopefully we get people from all over the US and the world on the podcast. But
and we have some ideas for that too.
Yeah.
And working through the festival and Sean and his connections and all the people we know, we'll have plenty of people on here. There's 52 weeks in a year. I bet you we could fill every week with that.
Oh yeah.
That's the goal. But anyways, let's get to what we are excited about talking about today, which is a little bit of our history, where we came from, and kind of walk through some of that stuff to get us to where we are now. How should we launch that, I guess?
I was going to let you go first since you're a little more comfortable on camera. I usually shoot everything, so I'm always kind of behind the camera, and I put where I feel comfortable.
And I usually talk over Sean, as you could tell, and just talk to everybody on set. So that's kind of my role, and I do a lot of acting too. So, but yeah, I guess to just kind of like, so we're not like just totally just going into every single detail, but it was about 2011, 2012 when you and I met for the first time. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to talk about my perspective of that, which is pretty.
Yeah. Well, you can even go like how you got into film.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, I think like the whole episode should be.
When I was bored, I had a camera handed to me instead of a bottle. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So like, I guess for myself, getting into filmmaking started back in Missouri, which is where I grew up, in Southwest Missouri, Joplin, Carl Junction, for some of those that are claiming that I'm saying Joplin as my hometown. It's just people know about Joplin. I don't know about Carl Junction as much as they know about Joplin. But I went to school there. There happened to be a video program there. Mr. Truan was a teacher that I really appreciated, kind of showed me the reins. He ended up actually going to Iraq during the war because he was a helicopter pilot, and we ended up having to run the class ourselves. So that ended up making me kind of a leader. Wasn't that exciting for the teaching staff. It was exciting for me because I got to learn all the tricks of like creating commercials. The original goal was to become a journalist. Still am a bit. I like doing that stuff, but through years of research and without going into too many details, you don't get to be the journalist you want to be. You kind of got to play the game. And I was more into creating interesting things. And so I actually loved music videos growing up, which we relate on very much. We watch videos. I decided that I would just buy my buddy's skate camera because we used to make skate videos. That's where all this started, is making skate videos with homies. I couldn't skate, so I was the best runner with a camera. And I got really good at using a fisheye and stuff. My buddy Zach Elder and I made a lot of videos together, and that made me want to make more films, which got me into music videos. Literally the first video that I shot that I was just like, I'm going to bust to this scene. Here we go. What are we going to do? There's this band called Frail, and they've broke up and formed other bands since, but at the time they were the biggest like metal band in the area. I said I want to make a video for them. They said, come over to practice. I came over to practice, pulled the camera out, just started shooting them, shot a music video for them for their practice, showed it to them that night, and they were like, whoa. And I made like all the music videos after that. Became kind of like a person that was doing a lot of metal videos, was the guy to come to, and that kind of grew out there. There's a I had some homies I worked at with this TV station called it was KOD TV, and I got a shout out to my homies Dory Hackelman specifically, because we really teamed up. She was like my supervisor at my job, which was working the newscast, because that was the original goal. And we started realizing that we wanted to make creative stuff, and we became kind of this authority to make videos. We met another buddy of mine named Alex Hernandez. All three of us came together between the Springfield Joplin scene, and we're making music videos like basically almost every weekend. Kind of figured out, oh, this is what I like to do. I like to do short films and stuff, but music videos it's easy. It's fun.
Yeah.
You don't have to work too hard at it. You can shoot it in a day. You can shoot it in a year. It doesn't matter. And we just made a bunch of those videos, and then turned, without going into any details, a natural disaster happened. Tornado hit the town, was doing a lot of construction, had a buddy that had moved out to Colorado who was from here originally. He asked if if I wanted to move out, we could get a place together and see what Colorado's like. And that's the history. After that, I moved out here, was struggling trying to find a scene, moved up to the mountains for a little bit, came back down from the mountains, came to a shoot. And it wasn't even on purpose. I just was like out and about in the town trying to figure out what was going on. And I came down to Equinox, and it was like, I think it was the 2012, maybe even early 2012, late 2011.
Yeah, because I graduated high school in 2010 and didn't start doing in the shed stuff until years after that.
We are getting into in the shed stuff. So this is like the beginning of In the Shed, which was the company that we all started several companies before, Nerd Rack. I walk into Equinox, and I had this big silly red hat on, and I had long blonde hair, and I saw Sean and Barrett, who was part of In the Shed at the time, and they were there recording something. I didn't see the recording. I just happened to come in after the performance was over, and you guys were packing up all the gear in those silver boxes that we just recently got rid of. And you were there packing up. Barrett was there, and he had like the audio gear on. You guys both looked like you just went through like hell or something, because it's probably like still figuring out those times of shooting live feed and stuff. And I walk through the crowd. I remember this, dude. And you probably don't remember like I do, but I remember I saw you guys like tearing down. And I always ask, like, if I was like, hey, is there like a shoot or something going on? And no one knew. I was like, because it's a bar. You live at Fort Collins, so everybody's drunk. And I just walked through the crowd straight to you two, sitting on two chairs on the table, packing up gear. And I go, hey, my name's Jesse Ninder, I think, or whatever. And I said, hey, you guys do video stuff. I would love to try to get back into it. And I kind of did like a quick, like I did it back home. And I'm just moved out here recently, and I'd like to get back into it. I'd like to meet up with you guys. And I think you guys might have handed me a card or something.
Yeah, but a sticker. I don't know if you even had cards.
I don't remember what it was, but it was like, yeah, we're In the Shed Media. Find us or whatever. I think I found you on Facebook.
Okay, yeah.
And eventually we all got in the same room, and I think I got invited to be an actor on a film that Shad wrote called Clean.
Mm-hmm.
And then I brought my buddy Mitch on too. And that was like the first thing that kind of got us all in the same room. I didn't have anything to do with the writing, directing. At that point, I was just acting. And that was the beginning of us coming together and meeting each other and working with each other for the first time. Less facial hair, more head hair, less belly.
That's more Viking-esque.
Yeah. Both of us just tall. Like, what are we gonna? Did we just become best friends? But I remember that because it was such a significant point now. But back then, it was just like a moving point forward. And I feel, and I'm going to stop my side of this here in a second so you can talk, but that whenever we met and we made eye contact and we started working with each other, it wasn't apparent at that time, but years later looking back, it's the Deacon Coen brothers. It's the what's the cinematographer? Man, your cinematographers better than I do, directors, but the cinematographer that Panos works with. There's like a couple of these basically what I'm trying to say is there's this director cinematographer duos that happen.
Oh yeah.
When it comes, especially at the beginning of all this.
Yeah, Chris Nolan and fuck, I just had it.
See that? So Sean knows all this stuff. I'm putting him on the spot.
Hoyts and Hoytman.
Yeah,
his names.
Yeah, and like all these Paul Verhoeven and Jean Ben Man, we're so bad. We'll get better. We got to have like a list in front of us. Anyways, the idea is that now, because we've worked together so much, that when we go into a project, you and I are already like 50 steps ahead than most people just coming together as a cinematographer and director. And we can sit and plan things at the tail end of the post-production on a lot of stuff because we know where our limits are and what we can achieve. And that is at least 8 to 10 years of working with somebody to know, hey, I want to write a film. I want to do this short film. 75% of it we've done and 25% of it we haven't done. And I know that 25% is, or 20 of it's achievable. And there's 5% that we're going to be like, let's try it.
Yeah.
And then we'll have it back. We have all these like mental like safety nets that we've achieved as a partnership that I feel warrants the growth that has been here. And honestly, if I would have been back home, I would still be trying to do this, but I don't think I would have developed the partnership with you, the leadership in this community, and the reward of being able to create things with an audience that wants to see things. And it's just kind of grown to this beautiful little thing that you and I and everybody around us.
I could definitely go into like how you kind of became, I don't know if the head is not the right word or not, but like kind of the leader of our local film scene.
Well, I would love to, but I also feel like that could be a cast in itself because there's a lot of information there.
Yeah. But it's part of your
It is.
cinematic
My
Jesse universe.
cinematic Jesse universe. I mean, I want to go and do really big detail on that on something else, but like as a quick note is like moving out here from where I came from and where I came from, it was a very, conservative state. The kind of things like filmmaking and creative arts like that, people did there, but it wasn't the industry and it wasn't a way to make money. And honestly, it was like, I heard this so many times that I actually started using it as a phrase, and it's, movies are these mythical monsters that come out of Hollywood and we have no idea how they're made and we don't really care. And honestly, we don't really watch many of them because it's a liberal, blah, blah, to being like, I want to do this and like my world bringing me out here, coming to an area where there was already people doing stuff and seeing that there was potential.
Mm.
And then just being like, there's so much potential. And then like digging into that, figuring out how to like bring all of those heads into the same room was a mission that I had. And being charismatic and someone who cares and loves other people's art as much as I do, it was like a natural move to just be like, in the shed days being like, why isn't there a scene that we can plug into? And the Lyric existed, which is a local theater here in Fort Collins that is amazing. I've loved it ever since I moved here. I fell in love the day and I eventually started working there. Long story short, the scene was here. It needed a leader, and someone like me who had the ability to see it from an outside perspective was able to connect some dots that put people in the same room, which allowed me to move to a position of like, I don't call myself the leader. I'm kind of like, I guess it's not a boss. It's more of a leader, I guess, because I'm kind of bringing people with me and I kind of see the potential. But that has helped me understand how all the process works, understand how states use their money.
Yeah.
So much information has come from just these moments that I've been here in Colorado working with cats and knowing how it goes. And that's another story, and I could break that down for an hour at least at some point, but the scene was here. It needed a leader. And if you feel that way about where you're at, if you're watching this, you just got to go out and put feet on the ground, walk around, meet people, talk to people. Don't be afraid, because a lot of people are trying to connect their art scene too, especially in a town like Fort Collins that loves their art, that loves the craft of being a human. It was begging for it. And now we're about to blow up as a state. Sundance is thinking about moving here. Big things are coming. And I saw this vision the day I stepped into Fort Collins in 2011.
Yeah.
And here we are 14 years later.
Yeah.
And it's starting to happen,
Yeah. I mean, because we always talked about it even in the shed days, but it seemed like everybody had their groups and wanted to stay in their groups. And a lot of it was based in Denver. We're a little bit, north of Denver.
Yeah.
And it's not like as big of an art scene, but we have like a lot of local talent. And yeah, from there, I think that's probably where that spark was started, was like our talks of like, how do we get this going, and how do we combine all these groups that are talented rather than like everybody making their own their own films, which a lot of it is still kind of that way, which is fine. But I think, over the last like few years, it's definitely like, I've been on a lot of other people's shoots. You've been on a lot of other people's shoots. We have other people come on ours. And I mean, one of our biggest things too is also teaching up and coming people, like, whoever's just starting or just out of high school or whatever. We love taking them under the wing and like just having them on set and, try to teach them the knowledge that we've built over the last like 10 years, but
right. And it's all
years plus.
It's all in the I guess the pudding, is that the term or whatever? It's all in the bread, it's all in the batter. Yeah, sure. Whatever. I love my metaphor. It's
Throw anything in batter.
Hey, whatever, dude. Go change in there. Yeah. Just don't eat it. Well, I've talked about me, and I know we're about 15 minutes in right now. You should talk about where you started.
I've kind of always grown up in an artsy household. My grandma taught art for many years. A lot of physical art, no digital. A lot of drawing, painting, jewelry, stained glass, leather, all that kind of stuff. And from a very young age, was my first like patron, because I would scribble on a page, make a couple scribblings a night or whatever, hanging out at her house, and she would like pay me for my work, and then she'd put it up on the fridge, or it'd be there better part of a year, But she was like, it was like $1, but as like a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, like the world is open to me because I have this dollar, and it just kind of inspired me to like keep pursuing that in a way. And like even my dad being a photographer, and then my grandpa being a photographer, it's like kind of in our blood to like have cameras in our hands. But I never really got into digital media until high school. And I basically just like only wanted to concentrate on art classes. And so I did like the bare minimum I could to pass all my core classes, and then filled all my off periods with only art classes. And a lot of it was physical media, because I thought I was going to get into like pottery or be a painter or a sculptor or something like that. And kind of like, I think it's funny now when I look back at it, but I kind of looked down on digital art as art, because I was like, oh, it's not real art. You're not building something that people can touch and feel and do all this kind of stuff. So it was only the very last class I had left. I took every iteration of pottery, every iteration of a drawing class. I even helped, I was a teacher's assistant in pottery class. I made the clay that the students used from the pug mill, and got back that deep into it. And then there was nothing left. And so I filled my last senior year, that final block, because we had block periods. So it was like 90-minute classes. It was literally that last half of that last semester that I took a video class. And then like, it just like blew my mind. You're like, wait a second, real hard. Yeah. And we made a few short films in that.
What was the moment? Was there a film you watched? Was it like you saw a camera? Like what was it?
No, I think it was, I kind of went into it with that mindset of it's not real art still. And then I saw the potential after realizing what like you could do with lighting, or what you can do with, and like obviously at that level, the lighting and stuff was mostly just natural light, because we shot on like the little like Sony Handycam, like the really tiny, I don't remember the model number, but the really tiny.
Oh, did it have the flip outside too?
Yeah, and that was it. With no mic, nothing.
Didn't have like a rolls.
Yeah, we shot to like mini DVs because SD cards weren't around yet.
Yeah, we're old. Yeah.
And so that was like our class, and I think we actually even had to pay to be a part of it because the cost of the mini DV tapes.
Oh yeah, that was a thing too, buying DV tapes.
Yeah, and we got like 480p, just not very good ones. We didn't have like the really nice masters, that you'd actually shoot potentially real film on.
Yeah.
But that kind of opened up, because I realized at that point that video and filmmaking is all art forms in one art form. And that kind of like combined everything, because like, oh, I could sculpt if I needed to, which we have some films potentially coming up this year, hopefully, that will exercise those sculpting, and painting. And, like if we need a set design, you're all of a sudden now becoming the painter, the sculptor, and everything. So like, and especially at our level where it is very low budget and we wear every hat. Usually it's kind of Jesse and I doing a lot of stuff, and we bring in people that are willing to work for free.
Yeah.
And do a little things.
We're not getting paid.
Because we're also not
Spending extra money than the budget has.
done. But that was the moment, like after high school. And I wish I had the first short film. I know I have it somewhere on a DVD. Burn it to DVD.
Yeah, put that up on YouTube on a channel of watches. Like,
Yeah. But from there, my buddy Marty and I started making short films. And those are on YouTube if you look up Way of the Cod Productions.
Way of the Cod, right?
Yeah, because my name is Sean Treadway and my buddy's name is Martin Coddington. So Way of the Cod was our thing. Our logo was a cod because we were say a little fish on it going down a road. And so you can look up our original. I should just repost those to the Nerd Rat one because it'd be kind of funny.
Why not?
History of Nerd.
Well, especially since we're doing this stuff, I got a plethora of it.
Dude, sure should. Yeah, like just
Review our old videos like, oh my God, who made this? Me in 2005?
but yeah, so like from there, made a handful of films. And to tie back into the lyric, there used to be at the old location in Old Town, like filmmaker nights.
Is it Billingsgate Ball? Is what they called that?
I don't think so. I don't know if it was that at the time, but also that was like 12 years ago, and I can't really remember it. But that was a place that filmmakers could show anything, and there was a $2 entrance fee to get into it. So it was like after hours. It usually started at like 9:30, because that was like when no actual films were being played. Yeah. And yeah, Ben the owner would come out, Ben Mosier would come out and kind of introduce some of the filmmakers. And then we had the chance before each of our films were played to kind of like talk about ourselves a little bit.
Yeah.
And we played in a theater that probably held like 20 people, like it was one of the smaller side theaters in the old Lyric. But it was just such a cool place to throw up our short films and see them on a big screen. It wasn't much bigger than like home TVs at this point. Right. It's like a 10-foot screen show.
Like that's something like, just as a side note, something that just as simple as seeing your film on a big screen.
Yeah.
Changes your whole perspective.
In front of a crowd.
In front of a crowd too.
Your heart's racing and it's like, it was mini DV, HDI, like so interlaced footage. Oh yeah. And it was just like horrible looking, my first camera. But that was like one of our first places that like, every once in a while we would get like second place or third place out of like 4 people.
You're like,
but that was like a cool thing. We got to learn or meet Ben, who we're still friends at this point.
Oh yeah, like, I still hang out with Ben and stuff too.
Yeah.
And as a side note for that, the first time I went to the Lyric was with you and Marty during when it was called Billingsgate Ball.
Okay.
And
maybe it was called that.
It was that at the time, but that's when I moved here in like 2011. Specifically, there was a film called Welcome to Fort Collins that they were showing. And it was like these filmmakers that I don't remember who they were, but they made a tourist video about Fort Collins in the silliest way. And it was amazing. That was that moment where I'm like, holy crap, there's a scene here.
Yeah.
And it's weird. Yeah. We were in the small theater of the Lyric, of the old Lyric downtown. Anyways, that was a big thing for me. Yeah.
So yeah, after we started showing some films at Lyric, then through my job with, we worked at Caldera Event Group, doing event work, lighting, decor, all that kind of stuff. Met Barrett, and he was like fresh coming back from Korea, acting in Korean films and like doing a little bit of acting and filmmaking out there, which is kind of cool.
He speaks fluent Korean, right?
I don't know if it's fluent.
He's pretty good at
fluent, but he knows enough to get by, I would say.
Yeah.
So we kind of got together and started making pretty terrible short films, and those were on the in the shed.
In the Shed Media.
Yeah, so
that's the whole thing.
You look up In the Shed Media, a lot of those should be still there of like our original short films. And a lot of those were just like show up the day of with a group of friends and you make something silly.
You're like, you're this actor now.
Yeah, and like this is way before we had a good camera, before we need color grading, before we knew or had lighting. And then from there, then we met you. And then Shad, I actually don't I think he met Barrett through something else and became like the third member of In the Shed, wrote clean. And then we brought Jesse in, and that was like where we had you working on set. I think you're running Slate initially writing stuff on a dry erase marker and then slapping it to make the clap of our first slate. And that's on English
Clean, right? Clean, right? And that reminds me too, because I met you guys at Equinox, but then I was working at the call center that Shad worked at that time. That was the bridge. And then I remember it's not qualifying anymore. It's qualifying now, but it used to be like services or something. Whatever, who cares? This is a call center. But that was the bridge. And there's an actor that works at that call center that had been in some Hollywood films, and that was how that got the conversation started. I think that's how I met. Say what?
Matrix?
No. Okay. Matrix worked there for a second. No, it was David Packard, who was in Almost Heroes. He was the guy that he played. I can't remember the character's name, but he's like this. Okay, Sanga. And then, you know what I'm talking about?
I vaguely.
Yeah. And I mean,
that, yeah.
You know, and he works here in town and stuff like that. But, you know, we've got some talent here in Fort Collins. But anyways, whatever. I'm interrupted.
No, yeah. I mean, like, and that's like, from there, it was just like kind of history. We just had things rolling. I mean, we could do a whole episode on B-Song, and I think that should be a whole episode with Sam Hannes.
Yeah, Sam, yeah.
But that would be a great, like, horror story of working for a Korean company making English language educational films.
For a specific rule set. Like, no, like, you can't have any zits on there. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah. And we had to do, I don't remember how many, but we had this huge spreadsheet and had to, I think we did 1,600 short films at the end of like 3
and like 10 a day. And that, like I said, that's a whole different podcast.
Yeah, something to look forward to. So subscribe and.
And I mean, we are trying to keep these things tight, 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's cool that but it's kind of interesting how quickly that time goes by just by us just having these conversations. We've been trying to do these podcasts for a while because we find that we will be talking about topics and just go into them and then realize 2 hours into it, like we should have just talked on a podcast about that. This is a very soft entrance to us. We didn't want to just annoy you with it, but we have a lot of stupid knowledge on films. We like to play the guessing game on how things are set up and then try to mimic it with our own gear. We're trying to do all kinds of stuff. And this is just another outlet for us to be able to talk about film. And honestly, an easy thing to edit and put up and, you know, see who wants to be involved, because all the other stuff just seems to be more time consuming to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
But we want to be able to put out more content of different kinds.
Yes. Well, and one of our favorite things is talking about movies and music videos.
Yeah.
If we can get other people involved, then might as well. Like we have the equipment, let's make a podcast. And then a year later, we're doing it. Our first episode.
Yeah, right. And also too is like we're trying to get more people to get up to our page. If you have any suggestions out there in the world about like things that you'd like us to talk about, things that you've seen us do in videos, guests that you'd like to have us on our cast, we want to bring in old creators. We want to bring in Greg from the Dead Pioneers video, the videos we shot with him. We want to bring in a lot of local talent. And through my festival, which we'll get into a different time, got connections all over the world that we would love to get people on the podcast talking about their creativity and what they're seeing for a future potential in this area, because we haven't moved to a different location. We moved to Hollywood. We haven't moved to Austin. There's been opportunities to think about doing, and we have chosen that this is a future jump off, and it's what we're trying to be part of, you know?
I agree. Yeah. I mean, at this point, anybody can make films and do films. So it wasn't really in our story to move to LA and just become one of the many that ends up working at a fast food restaurant and doing that. But it's like, we're not putting that down.
Oh, no.
It's just like we knew that we had a lot of talent here and a lot of resources locally. And now the world is kind of reflecting that because, you know, Sundance might be coming here.
Yeah.
Hopefully, because that'd be kind of cool. I've always wanted to go to Sundance.
Well, and more importantly is the state recognizing that this place could be a place to make movies, which is a huge step for a lot of us locally. And I think that the biggest thing to take away from that is this state has had a tough time trying to get that started, and all the surrounding states have all this funding that they give for making films. And if we can get our state to pay attention and want to invest into that more, that means more jobs for us locally, because you could attest to it, not going to attest to it. We travel a lot for just not even creative stuff necessarily, just like doing work commercially. And we want to make Northern Colorado a hub for it, where people are coming there, building their businesses out that way. And then it just becomes this massive thing. But we got to beat LA here, so we got to be able to put the people in to support it, or they're going to come here and just set up studios and forget about it. So
it might be becoming the default if LA just burns down at this point.
And honestly, there's so many other places that are doing what LA is doing anyways. And
Atlanta.
Yeah, and that's America. And then the world cinema is getting crazier. And I mean, Indian cinema is amazing now. I'm just like, just so blown away. And it's just like one of those things where you realize like, oh, we're no longer the only thing that's making these super blockbusters. And they've been doing it for years, but now it's like, I go back to visit family in Arkansas, and in Arkansas theaters, they have like 5 or 6 Bollywood flicks playing alongside everything else that I've never heard of, but they're getting play on, so to think that Hollywood is the place only to do it is a little narrow-minded, but I don't shame or hate anybody that goes out there and does it, because I know a couple cats that have went out there and done it well, and they do great.
Yeah.
And I've known some people that have went out there and just like, they can't get it going, and they just do the good fight. And you know what? All the power to them. They can report back. We could bring some of them on the podcast to tell us how that adventure is out there, and maybe even teach us some stuff about what we can do better here to support local creatives, because it's so saturated there,
Totally.
Yeah, well, I don't know. What do you think? Good first episode?
Yeah, we just kind of wanted to take this first episode to be like kind of a little bit of about us.
Well, and also too is I know that we're able to edit this later, so this is the first time we're ending the podcast. Do we want to do anything like see you next time, or like see you next in the nerd nest? Right?
Nerd nest. Yeah,
That's it.
Yeah, this is something we didn't really talk about, is how do we outro?
Yeah, right.
Maybe that's it. We just cut here.
Thanks for joining us. There you go, first one.
I love it.
Okay.